Welcome back to Just Chattin. And this is the series of videos we do on Thursday and Sunday evenings just for our own entertainment. As you can see, we have Audie with us. He's actually behaving himself, and it's a sunny day, so he just got up. And I figure what this is all about is not so much photobombing as begging me to give him a little dinner and let him go out and play in the sunshine. So I'm going to do that. We are going to take a brief break for the intro, and we will be right back. So, we have some interesting news about Nutmeg's Besties, which frankly is a huge and just mind-boggling group of people. And I thought, because there are so many, we should probably just take a look at that. Nutmeg comes up with these best friends out of the clear blue sky all the time, which is very unusual when we stop and consider that this is a woman who, since 2018, has been living out her personal life on the front pages of practically every tabloid she could get to run a story on her. Now, keep in mind, this had been her goal for many years before then. It's just that until she sort of snagged the sock puppet, no one was really interested in putting her life on the front pages. However, in the post-Harry period, 2018 onward, she has gotten the interest she has always craved, and consequently, she is and has been living out her life on the front pages. So you would think at this point we would know her entire social circle, because she makes such a point of putting this out there in front of everyone. And it's very unusual because, looking at the royal family, I do not know, even today, after 100 years, I do not know who the late Queen's best friends were. Yes, I know about Angela Kelly, but I don't really know if that was her best friend or simply the person closest to her because, they worked together. No idea. It's unusual for a royal's private life to be so exposed, mostly because they don't want to expose their lives. Nutmeg does. So in that context, very, very unusual. Anybody know who Princess Anne's best friend is? Because I don't. That's simple. Nutmeg, every time she's seen with someone, the caption reads, "with best friend such and so." Even in Hollywood, if we take it away from the royal family and look closer to Nutmeg's roots, to her one true love, Hollywood, I have no idea who Julia Roberts' best friend is, for example. No clue. Because that is not the sort of thing that either royals on one hand or celebrities on the other tend to throw out into the public sphere. Most of the time, I would have to say, and I will give people the benefit of the doubt on this, the more famous person, the royal or the celebrity, will try to protect their friends who have ordinary private lives. They try to protect them from unwanted publicity. Nutmeg, no. Nothing is off limits for her. Consequently, every few months, we are finding her turning up with a new best friend. Personally, I think she's doing this in order to show the world that she actually has friends. And at this point, nobody believes it, because there have been so many of them. And as soon as that photo op terminates, so does the friendship. So I thought we would take a look at some. I have, this is just a very short list. I have no doubt that most of you watching this video could probably easily double this list. I know I could have, but I was hoping to keep this a little short. The reason I'm going to try to keep this video a little short is because of the time differences. US, UK, we will be setting our clocks back next week. You've set your clocks back already. So this is going to be a difficult time slot, an unaccustomed time slot for some of our overseas viewers. Therefore, I was hoping to compress it a little. Regardless, I could still easily come up with 10, and this is 10 right off the top of my head. If I did a little research, could I come up with more? Oh, yes. As I say, I'm sure you can. Easily, 30, 40. This is my best friend, that's my best friend. So let's start with Serena Williams. Yes, we are all very familiar with Nutmeg and Serena Williams and this friendship where they bonded over tennis, which is an interest we've never heard Nutmeg express before or since, that apparently this is what they bonded over, and then they started talking girly stuff. We all know the story. Nutmeg's told it many times. Tom Bauer, of course, has a different take on that. He links the entry of Serena Williams into Nutmeg's life, which is actually more like the other way around, Nutmeg glomming on to Serena Williams at a time when she was working on Suits and desperate to get her name in the papers, and doing so by trying to associate herself with better-known people. Interestingly enough, this is one of the few people that has remained in Nutmeg's life for a period of time, but I guess one doesn't casually markle Serena Williams. Next up, we have Abigail Spencer, another person who has remained in Nutmeg's life for a remarkably long period of time, considering that it's Nutmeg. And apparently they met on the set of Suits, and Abigail she's what one would call a jobbing actress. She has never really made it to stardom. It's not likely she ever will at this stage of her career, but she has remained steadily employed. And she has proven to be a useful and loyal friend to Nutmeg whenever Nutmeg needs a social media post. Oh, Abigail is right there. When Nutmeg needs a guest star on one of her very vapid programs, Abigail Spencer is there again. Is this a legitimate friendship? I don't know. My personal suspicion is that they are both using each other to further their respective careers. That's just my opinion. But what can I say? I will give Abigail credit. Most people do not manage to stay in Nutmeg's life for as long as Abigail has. Next up, we have Chrissy Teigen. Now, I've explained that before. Although she is generally called Chrissy Teigen, she has stated she prefers to be called Chrissy Teigen, so I have no problem with that. Chrissy and Nutmeg met when they were doing Deal or No Deal together, and apparently remained on friendly terms for a while. But that relationship, too, seems to have petered off. I think Chrissy has been markled. However, I do have to say that Nutmeg has people who she has scooted out of her life and then brought back in later at a more opportune moment. So who knows? Maybe Chrissy, once we can get past all of the horrific bullying accusations that Chrissy has faced, and I would have to say, if they are true, they are appalling. I would certainly say if Chrissy gets past that, who knows? Maybe the door will be open again. For the moment, it does seem to be closed. Next up, anybody remember when Nutmeg's bestie for 20 minutes was Priyanka Chopra? Yeah, we're going back to something like, 2019 at this point. Yes, Priyanka Chopra was briefly Nutmeg's bestie. I don't even know what to say about that, although I can say I will give Nutmeg credit. She certainly casts a very wide net. We're not just dealing with Hollywood, we're dealing with Bollywood too. And Tyler Perry. So, what's the deal with Tyler Perry? Well, without ever having met Nutmeg, he had congratulated her on her wedding, and that opened the door for Nutmeg to get in touch with him and say, "Hi, will you give us a house and fly us to Hollywood?" Which apparently he did after they had moved to Canada. Remember when they first left the UK and they said, "We're going to stay in a Commonwealth country"? Yeah, right. And that lasted, 35 minutes? And then Tyler Perry to come and rescue her, take her out to Hollywood, give her his house. Yeah. Now that Tyler Perry has been facing some accusations of inappropriate behavior, that seems to be a waning friendship at this point. But again, Tyler Perry, by the way, is one of the most important people on this list. He is probably even more significant than Serena Williams, who, although at the top of her field, doesn't have the Hollywood pull Tyler Perry has. So yeah, I would have to say, he's right up there. We'll have to see where that one ends up. Then we had, interestingly enough, very recently, Jamie Kern Lima. That was her new bestie. Oh, they were just thick as thieves for, what was that podcast? About 45 minutes, I think. I could be overestimating it. The fact is, it was so boring. It could have been 12 minutes, and I could have remembered it as 45 because it was such an ordeal to listen to the whole thing. But yeah, they were besties. Oh my. And have we seen anything of the two of them together since? No, because that's not how Nutmeg rolls. But wait, there's more. We then have the entire cast of Suits. They were like family to her. They got invited to her wedding. Not the nighttime reception, of course, but the service in the daytime. The nighttime reception was reserved for people like Oprah Winfrey and George and Amal Clooney, who apparently had never met her prior to being invited to the wedding, and George Clooney has said so. But yes, cast of Suits, they were there for the wedding. I assume otherwise Nutmeg would not have known a soul in the entire church. But that passed away very, very quickly. And last I heard was when Gina Torres of the Suits cast had said, "No, we don't have her phone number." Yeah, they all got markled. And then we have Kelly McKee Zyphon, and I hope I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. I really don't know how it's pronounced. And she and Nutmeg apparently met at some charity photo op. Nutmeg was there to get her picture taken, because we all know that that is the extent of her commitment to any charity she's involved with. Just there for the photo op, move on to the next photo op. And actually, can anybody cite a charity, any charity that she has stuck with for any period of time? No, it's always an in and out sort of thing. But Kelly lost a child to COVID, which is a great tragedy, and I'm sure all our hearts go out to her. But because Nutmeg, for some reason, seems to be really just buying into this brand of disaster tourism. Whenever she can find a tragedy, she is right there like a hungry vulture waiting in the wings. So naturally, Nutmeg's picture, Kelly Zyphon's picture, the mention of Kelly's son, Oh, it was grim. It was absolutely grim. And that was in the papers just a few weeks ago. So, moving on to the latest, and this too is a bit of disaster tourism. Courtney Adamo. And Courtney apparently attended Northwestern with Nutmeg. They were allegedly in the same sorority together. And they told a story recently, and very recently, by the way, that they made a road trip from California to Chicago because they couldn't fly because the planes had all been grounded in the wake of 9/11. Interesting. What this has to do with anything, I don't know. But let's just throw 9/11 in there because let's double down on that disaster tourist label. I found that very odd, and of course we had never heard of Courtney before. I could not find any indication that she had been to the marriage, the wedding ceremony between Nutmeg and Trevor. Certainly she was not at the wedding between Nutmeg and the sock puppet in London. So yeah, how close friends could they be? But Nutmeg did drag her out. Oh, we're old college friends. And then finally, we're coming to the last two. And these two people actually were Nutmeg's friends. We can certainly establish that. One was Jessica Mulroney, who Nutmeg had glommed onto back in her Suits days. And that would have been from 2011 up until the time that she married the sock puppet. And Jessica Mulroney was matron of honor at her wedding. Jessica's daughter was a flower girl. And certainly they were besties. But then Jessica got Markle, shunted to the sidelines, and as I mentioned in a video not too long ago, rumor has it that Jessica has been approached to write a memoir, to just basically tell her side of the story, talk about Nutmeg. I believe if Jessica did that, it would sell. I think that a lot of people would be more than interested in hearing what someone on the inside has to say about Nutmeg's life in the time period leading up to her marriage to Harry. And remember, at the beginning, Nutmeg was the sixth player in a 6-member ensemble cast in a relatively unknown cable television show, and Jessica Mulroney was the power broker in that relationship. She was the daughter-in-law of the former Prime Minister of Canada. Her husband is apparently a successful talk show host in Canada, and Jessica was a well-known social media influencer. So yeah, Jessica was the power broker. And then when that power dynamic shifted, Jessica was no longer necessary and got scooted aside. But we also have Ninaki Priddy. And she has been, I don't want to say in the news, but her name has been bandied about in many of the sources I go to check out information. And Ninaki certainly was Nutmeg's bestie from the time when they were old enough to crawl right up until the point at which Nutmeg divorced Trevor. Ninaki was the maid of honor at her wedding to Trevor, and so this was a relationship that probably went on for at least 25 years. And Ninaki recently made a statement on social media, and I believe this was X, formerly known as Twitter, suggesting that she might have a story to tell. She might be willing to talk at long last. Now, Ninaki has not said anything. Nutmeg scooted Ninaki to the wayside back around, 2014-15, before she married Harry, Ninaki was out. And Ninaki lately, in a rather surprising turn of events, has suddenly, and I do mean suddenly, for a woman who has been very, very quiet for the past, 10 years or more, suddenly has started engaging with YouTube content creators from the Megxit community. And it has been several of them, the Royal Grip, the Sidley twins, Paula M., among others, and there have been others. And these exchanges that they have had on social media have been, unprecedented. Let's start with that, unprecedented. Ninaki Priddy's name has been bandied about ever since Nutmeg's name began hitting the front pages. Obviously, this is someone who knew her when she was a child and was a very big part of Nutmeg's life. So yes, her name is going to get dragged out sooner or later. But why suddenly she is engaging with the Megxit community, that's a mystery. Why she would be asking for dialogues with Megxit content creators while at the same time engaging in what appears to me, and keep in mind, I'm on the outside looking in, I'm just reading social media posts, what appears to me to be not the friendliest exchanges, but still looking for phone calls, for Zoom calls. I don't even know what to say about this. And again, she has said, essentially, she's not bound by an NDA and she has a story to tell. So does that mean that Ninaki Priddy is interested in telling her tale? Oh, if I were a gambler, I think I'd put my money on this one. I think that if any one of these random Megxit content creators reached out to her, and I'm probably going to email some of them and suggest this, if they reached out to her in a positive way, maybe she would talk. I don't know. It certainly seems that way to me from the outside looking in. Can I say for certain? Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I don't know Ninaki Priddy. I know very little about her, just what I've read in the biographies of Nutmeg, but that's about it. But I would say, I think there's an opening here if someone wants to sort of seize upon it. Yes. So, what's the takeaway from all of this? 1, Nutmeg has more best friends than I have socks, and that's saying a lot, because I honestly don't even know how many socks I have. They seem to change from one moment to the next, here today, gone tomorrow. 2 of the people we do know were Nutmeg's besties for relatively long periods of time. Well, for Nutmeg, any bestie for more than a 20-minute photo op is a long period of time. But I think with Ninaki Priddy, we're looking at 20 years or more. With Jessica Mulroney, we are looking at perhaps at least 5 or 6 years. These are people who probably do have stories to tell. If they are going to tell them, I think we should pay attention, because I bet they will be well worth listening to. So that's what I have for you today. We are going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I hope to see you all next time. And in the meanwhile, have a terrific day.